Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 34 to 39. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me. I always thought of this as just saying, the word is going to be in our heart, and so no one will be able to trick us anymore, things like that. But reading it today, here's what I'll share to you, what I saw today. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. Why? Because of all those lexicons and commentaries that I told you before. And we learned from people who were not Israelites, and so they taught us anything, and we grew up to thinking that as well, and so we go on to regurgitate the deceptive teachings. And all of us are fighting and bickering with each other, cursing and fighting each other. No, it means this, the text means that, this means that, this. No, that's what it means, this is what. So he says they're not going to teach every man anymore, know the Lord. Why? Because every time you teach know the Lord, you're telling them know the Lord the way I know him, and I don't care what you think and feel and how you can see something else. Do it my way. So what he's saying is that your teaching or the truth will not be based on what you teach and what comes out of you and what your understanding is, because you have many, many degrees behind your name, and you're skilled in theology and whatever, and then bad in the Hebrew and the Greek and whatever. Your knowledge is not, your teaching is not going to be based on the knowledge you have learned. Your knowledge or your truth is that you teach is going to be based on what the Creator said. Notice Adam wasn't giving his own interpretation all over the place. He didn't tell the Creator, oh, but we ate because this is what it means. When you said, don't eat from this tree, you actually meant blah, blah, blah. You meant don't eat too much from it, but a little. You see, he didn't change it like that. Because Adam wasn't going around trying to reinterpret and whatever. He was just going straight by original instructions. So nobody at that time in the future, after Israel has been changed back to the Most High, will be able to teach their own stuff, because he's going to perform surgery on your heart, spiritual surgery, to make you his again with a new covenant, as he said in the verses before, which I'm not going to read. And so he's going to do the spiritual surgery and bring you back to the way that you really should be, where you're going to realize it's not my feelings about the text, it's not my understanding, and it's not going to be based on somebody else's commentary that was made when I was in captivity. It's just going to be by what the Most High said. The surgery in your heart means it's going to put his word direct in your heart, like he put it in Adam, and he breathed the Torah into Adam, and Adam functioned by a code of Torah that did not need any interpretation. He just carried out the instruction until Eve came and fell to a teaching from a quote-unquote commentary from a serpent from another nation, from a lexicon from another nation who was not of the Adamites or not of the Israelites, or however you want to look at it. That's what happened. You notice the serpent didn't go after Adam because Adam got the stuff direct and Adam wasn't going to play no vulnerability and so on. But somehow after time they found their way to get to Adam. They found their way to get to the woman. They look for weaknesses. Because when you are looking at, oh, I don't like what that person taught, they can't be, no, it teaches against what I'm teaching. So I'm going to buy an extra book, an extra commentary, an extra lexicon, and find one extra word that will make me continue to teach it this way, because I don't like what he's teaching. I don't like what she's teaching. And that's how we do. That's all we do. So, they shall teach no more every man his neighbor. They shall teach no more every man his own feelings, his own teachings, his own interpretations. Creator said, this is what you will eat. I don't need to interpret that. You say, eat from that tree. Oh, I see fruits on it. I need to interpret that to say, well, meat. That sounds like something from out of an animal's belly. I don't need to interpret that to say the meat means from an animal. He clearly understands what it's saying. The Creator said, the tree. So he knows that the meat is what grows on the tree. That's how Adam handled it. Straightforward. Truth is simple. The complexity to truth today is based on the giving of a lot of information that was wrong. by people who were false prophets, were skilled in deception, like the serpent was skilled in deception. Anyway, let's go on. Saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them. That means even the least of them, who are skilled in the knowledge of the Hebrew, or in whatever, the least of them will get it right, because they're not trying to find interpretations. They're going by the code of Torah in their heart from the spiritual surgery. They're going, that's why the Most High says, I will give you teachers. He's talking about future time. After my own heart, who will teach you what I am saying. Not teachers who are going to interpret, but teachers who are going to do what I want, say what I want. Why? Because I am the one who's going to give you. Your pastor is not going to set up the other pastor, the assistant pastor. Your camp leader is setting up the backup teacher. I will give them teachers after my own heart. Because if I am doing it, they will be a reflection of my teachings, of my word. They're just going to give it the same way I give it. I will give them my own teachers. I will select the teachers myself. There'll be no favoritism here. Oh, I don't like what that brother teaches. I don't like his views. Yeah, I would like him, but he kind of goes off a little bit, you know. And they know sometimes the brother is right. But because he goes off a little bit and we're scared of losing, you know, people might not follow exactly what I've taught all these years in my camp or in my church. So I don't like him, even though I know secretly in my mind he's right. But I just don't like when he goes over there a little bit too much, because I already taught some things 15 years ago and it kind of goes slightly against that, shows me up a little bit, so I don't like it. So no, I'll choose the other brother instead, that is a regurgitating idiot who will just do everything I say to him just the way and sound like a damn clone, like I hear some of you sounding in the camps. The Most High says, I will give them teachers myself. They will speak it just the way I'm telling them. Why is he going to give us teachers later on? Himself? Because somebody else has been picking our teachers. Somebody else has been raising up other people. And we got it wrong and they're teaching wrong. Where are the Israelites right now who have the funds to publish and circulate commentaries all over the earth? Do you see the authors who write these commentaries when you buy a book from an online store or wherever you buy it? Do you see who's writing them? Who are your teachers? Are they of your nation? But I will give them teachers after my own heart. And for I will forgive their iniquity and will remember their sin no more. And so they're going to continue to live right, because now they're getting proper teachings, so they are not going to do the same iniquity anymore. Because it was the bad, deceptive teaching that continued to let our iniquity flourish. And even though we can't offer sacrifices now because we say we're just not in Jerusalem, in our heart or in our mind, we're still thinking to do them, because that kind of iniquity kind of thinking continues to flourish based on the wrong teachings. But the Most High said, I will send Elijah. In other words, I will send a new kind of instruction, a new kind of thinking, rooted in original instructions. Thus saith the Most High, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night. That's why I read to you already from, Ezra 7:12 about the established, or Habakkuk, chapter 1, established. He's showing you here again, based on precepts, certain things that are established, they just continue. So when he established food eating with Adam, it should continue. So how come Noah changed it? And said the Most High told him he can eat meat now? He was drunk. Probably, that's what I think. Or somebody injected something in the text. That giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances, and notice that those things continue because they were established based on original instructions in the book of Genesis chapter 1 in the creation story. So they continue because they are an establishment from the Torah, when the Torah established these things. And of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. if those ordinances depart, in other words, if those ordinances change, if those ordinances sound like a Genesis chapter 9, Noah, you can eat meat kind of difference from a Genesis instruction to Adam saying, hey, the meat that you will consume is the food that grows from the earth. If those ordinances change before me, saith the Most High, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. Because what I do based on my Torah, it don't change. It don't change. That's why I establish it based on the Torah that is eternal. Verse 37. Verse 37. Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out. He's telling you, ain't no way you can change what I established from the start. So Noah can't change anything in Genesis 9 that was not that was already stated in Genesis chapter 2 in a different kind of way. The Creator is here telling you that if you are going to even attempt to change my established stuff, you have to try to accommodate from all these extravagant, astronomical, high to reach, far to reach kind of ways. You got to go through all these hard efforts just to attempt a change. If heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all the seed of Israel for all they have done, saith the Most High. Behold the days. So the change came a little too easy in Genesis chapter 9 with Noah. Verse 38, behold the days come, saith the Most High, that the city shall be built to the Most High from the tower of Hananel unto the gate of the corner. And verse 39, I like this one. And the measuring line, see that establishment again, and the measuring, because it's line upon line, measuring establishment stuff, shall yet go forth over against it up unto the hill Gareb, and shall compass about 4 goeth. Look up on that word measure right there. I don't want to go into that right now because it's going to take me off a little bit more, but let me continue nicely here. Now that he talks about the measuring and the line and the width and so on with the measuring, he's telling you this thing has been well thought out. It has been structured, it is set in place, just like Adam, it's set in place. Food, eating for the body that I create when I first thought to create the body, because creation comes from thoughts. He created a thought to do stuff, so he went ahead and created, and he thought of the man, like David said, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So the Creator must have put some thought into how to make the body and think of what will the body require to sustain it and to keep it going. And we all know when you eat certain foods, it heightens your spiritual sensitivity and so on. So he thought this is the kind of food that will give the electrical impulses to function properly and whatever in the body. They'll eat the stuff that comes out of the earth. And some of you teach that the earth is alive. So he's feeding the man with life again, but you got to kill an animal, bring it to death in order to eat it. Hello. Right? So he thought of what the man will eat. Like when they're making a car, they think it through and they say, okay, it's going to need some fluids here and some fluids there, this kind of fluid to clean the glass so you can see, and it's going to need oil right here and so on, or the metal is just going to rub and get too hot and burn up and melt and so on. They think it through. The Creator thought through what does the human body need. And he said, this is what it needs. Eat the herbs and so on, the greeneries and the fruits. But somebody comes and says, but he told Noah to eat the animals. Don't make any sense. So now, we see that there's a line upon line here that should not be changed because it has been measured out or structured out, and it was set in place by the Torah that made the earth to not move. It is telling you that as the earth is sure and you can't change it, you can't move the stars, you can't do whatever, you can't move the foundations of the earth and so on. It's sure, secure, like my word is sure, secure. It gets that surety for the structure of the earth and the foundation of the earth from the surety of my Torah. It's the same way my word where I command you what to eat and so on is sure. The Israelites offering their sacrifices when they're eating all these animals, and then they're going to go on to further burn the sacrifice to the Most High, which is just a precursor to Calvary, flesh sacrifice, again like the animal flesh sacrifice. This is just all a precursor to Calvary. The fake Calvary I've been teaching you about. It's all one package. They were just building up the Calvary. This is fake and it's out of line with the precepts that say line upon line. And I'm going to read that for you now. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 7 to 18. But they also have erred through wine. Didn't I just tell you that Noah was drunk? It's my thought that he might have been drunk when he said he heard a voice basically that told him that God is speaking to him that he should eat this meat from animals, from animal bodies. Man might have been drunk. Possibly, but I don't know. But in any case, these other priests and prophets and scribes, they're being exposed there saying, they've erred through wine and through strong drink. Are they out of the way? The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. And read Jeremiah 23 as well. It tells you how these power people of the Most High of the nation of Israel were gone astray. The priests, the scribes, the prophets, and so on. They were teaching the wrong thing, the Most High said. Jeremiah 8 verse 8. How do you say you are wise and the law of the Most High is with you? The pen of the scribes is in vain. So when they wrote to you that you should offer up sacrifices of animals on high holy days, the pen is in vain. It did them no good. Because you have a bad law, a corrupt law. You corrupted my law, corrupted my Sabbath, you corrupted my holy name, you corrupted the scrolls, you corrupted everything I gave to you. And the first precept that showed that Adam corrupted and Eve corrupted the instruction showed that they were kicked out. Same way when Israel corrupted the instructions, they were kicked out of the land as well. So the priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They were drunk. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way. They're out of the way. That means they're not in the way of the Most High anymore. Through strong drink, they erred in vision. They stumbled in judgment. I placed before you two ways, life and death. So if they got out of the way, they are now not in the way of life. So they're erring in judgment. So when they said, yeah, it says we should offer sacrifices, let's do that. It's the high holy day tomorrow. They're out of the way. It's a wrong instruction that they're giving. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. All tables, that's what they're feasting from. The tables when they're having their meal of animal sacrifice to the Most High, and the table of the scrolls, the place where they're feasting from the word of instruction. It's all corrupted. It's like vomit and filthiness that they're learning from drunk scribes and so on, who, in a sense, spilled and vomited all over the text of truth, and come up with something bad. Whom shall he teach knowledge? Who? I thought you all Israelites back then, when the kingdom was up and running, you don't have knowledge. He's wondering, out of all these people here, I gotta try to find somebody who I can teach knowledge to. You can't even figure it out. Who can I teach knowledge? You got all these scribes there and you can't figure out who of them you can teach knowledge? Because they're all corrupt. They took on the practices of the heathen with their sacrifices unto God from animals. Who shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? They're so far gone they can't understand it, can't connect with it anymore, because false doctrines of Baal are in their mind. Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. So you got to start over with some fresh new babies. So what the Most High is doing with us here in captivity is getting rid of the ones that are corrupt, and he's saving a remnant that will start over to wean from the breast of his word, so to speak, to grow up a newness in the nation. For precept must be upon precept, but he can't teach it to the older ones because they're corrupt and they will not change. So he's got to start over with some new ones who are willing to learn all over again and say, if people have taught us wrong things while we're in captivity, coming off slave ships and so on, and printing some new commentaries to give to us and new lexicons and telling us this is what the word means, this is what the Torah is instructing, we've got to suspect that. So he's saying the ones who can say, maybe we should suspect that stuff, that people who are not Israelites have taught us all these things. We should suspect it. Those ones have a newness, a baby-like stuff in their heart. Those ones now, I can teach them weaning them from the breast and so on. I can teach them precept upon precept. I can teach them the right way to measure out the scriptures and to line it up properly. Why? For precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept, line upon line. Line upon line, here a little and there a little. And he's telling you that the precept must be upon precept, so he preached it again. He's telling you the line should be upon line, so he's giving you an example by repeating it a second time again in the same verse, line upon line. He's giving you an example that you should not stray, it should not be different, it should be the same later on. So Noah should have had the same instruction in Genesis 9 as was given to Adam. So after Adam got that, your meat will be the food that grows from the ground, later on, it should still be a line upon line. Noah should have said, but that don't sound right, I must be drunk. Let me go back and sleep off this drunkenness. When I get up tomorrow, I'll see if that's what the Most High really said. That's how Noah should have handled it. That's how Noah should have handled it. Line upon line. So it should line up with what Adam got. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, and so on, to whom he said, this is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. Certainly they didn't hear, and we're still hearing somebody else's false doctrine. But the word of the Most High was upon them, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little, and that they may go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken and so on. Because not enough are going to search through the precepts, lining it up properly to see properly. So they're going to fall and go backward. Line upon line. Because he's looking for the ones who are going to search to stack it up properly, to line it up properly, to measure it out, to say, does it connect to Adam? What Adam was saying. As I told you, everything I'm reading now in the scriptures, I'm going back to the creation story and the Garden of Eden. Because what Adam was dealing with on the creation, that's where the entire Torah should be based on, if it is true to begin with. If it is true, then the foundation of the Torah should be the creation and the Garden of Eden. Because it shows the first people the Most High was dealing with. So everything else must rest on that. If it can't rest on that, then the Torah is fake. There's a reason why it's shown that the creation came first, because everything else must come after the creation. It figures. And if Eden was the next thing, then everything else must also be based on that as well. So no prophet can come with instruction later on and tell you, oh, because I'm Jeremiah, the prophet of God, or I'm Isaiah, or I'm whoever, or I'm Noah, that something else must change. No, the Most High does not change. Malachi 3:6. Verse 14, wherefore hear the word of the Most High, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. So if they're scornful and they hate the word, they're going to rule with deception. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, like the dead animals that they're eating, because they're going to kill them first and then eat the dead animal. Instead of imbuing life, they're taking in death into them. You become instantly unholy with dead carcass inside your body, even if you are a holy high priest set apart unto the Most High. Every Israelite eating a dead animal that was slain upon an altar on the day, on a high holy day, was instantly filthy before the Most High when it's a holy day. Because they were eating the dead carcass of a body, of an animal, and then they walked home with the dead carcass inside of them, walking living sepulchre of death with the Israelites on a high holy day, including the high priest in his nicely, freshly ironed garments. He was a priest of death. And he walked home with the death in his body. And the Israelite going home walked home with death in their body. A dead carcass. You can't even touch a dead carcass, but you're going to put it inside your body. Let it be rubbing up on your stomach and whatever inside of your body. And so you are holy and set apart to the Most High. You have been duped. Animal sacrifices are not of the Most High, and they were used to pave the way to Calvary for another flesh sacrifice upon a cross. The place of Golgotha, the place of the skull, another death place, which is a death sacrifice unto Molech and Chemosh. Calvary was a Molech sacrifice, I've told you before. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. Agreeing with death, so we will take death into our body with the dead animal that we're biting our teeth into. Israelites gathering by the thousands or millions on a high holy day for atonement or whatever they're doing. They're like on some zombie fiend with all kinds of flesh hanging out from their the side of their mouth while they're pushing in another piece of meat from the animal, like the zombies would have the piece of the meat of somebody that they just ate in the movies. These are Israelites? Come on, wake up and smell the coffee. World is too late now. The time is too late to be beating around the bush. Get your mind right. Get back to the scriptures and find the Most High for the first time in your life. The same way I'm trying to do. You and I never saw who wrote this Torah, and the Torah source editors, JPE, and all the alphabets that they give them are very mysterious to us. We don't know who wrote it. We don't know who edited it. So you got to question it. But we sure know who wrote the commentaries and lexicons we've been given for the past few hundred years, though. It was not us who wrote those. We were slaves. We didn't have the money to publish them, and we still can't publish. You know how many Israelites are writing Bibles now, and only a few can publish them, and even fewer get theirs marketed properly to make some money off it, or to share the wonderful words of understanding that they have. Just a drop in the bucket compared to other nations who are writing those same Bible versions and commentaries. Wake up. Are we in agreement? Yet with the overflowing scourge shall pass through it. It shall not come unto us, for we have made lies our refuge, just like the lying sacrifices, and our falsehood. In our falsehood we have hid ourselves. They're hidden into the falsehood. They're cocooned in it. The Most High's word can't reach them. That's why He sent prophets every day, every morning, getting up and speaking to them, and they can't even hear Him because they're like tuned out. Too much Baal in their mind. Too much sacrifice in their mind. If I just offer a sacrifice on the next high holy day, I'll be all right. That's why He couldn't reach them anymore. They were gone. And it does say, as we read before, they were gone out of the way. Verse 16 to 18, then I'll close. Therefore, thus saith the Most High Power, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Judgment also will I lay to the line. Again, the line is measuring it stuff, measuring, structuring stuff, making sure it lines up right and structured correctly, linking to all the other precepts of righteousness, not what the Baal nations practice. Also I will lay to the line, and the righteousness to the plummet, and the hail shall sweep away refuge of the water, shall overflow, blah, blah, blah. Verse 18 and final verse. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. Basically, they're not going to be saved. Look at this word, your covenant with death shall be disannulled. They're trusting in death so they can get benefits when the Most High curse them for their wickedness and their evil ways and their anti-Torah habits. They will get the crop and food from the other nations when the Most High curse their crops because they don't want to keep His Sabbath and keep His holy ways and sacrifice in their heart by good living and returning to His commandments. Instead, they want to sacrifice animals that they learned from the other nations to sacrifice. So they side with the other nations in a covenant of death with the other nations. But the Most High said, I will disannul your sacrifice. I will disannul your covenant of death. Disannul means I will cancel it out. So all their sacrifices are cancelled out. It don't mean anything to the Most High. You're waiting to go back to Jerusalem to sacrifice again? You might as well sacrifice right here, because it's not going to do you any good. So if He's disannulling, that means that He's going to cancel it out. He's getting rid of it. Look up the word disannul. Right? He's going to cancel it. He's getting rid of it. It's not going to do you any good, because these sacrifices are out of line. And Calvary was built upon these animal sacrifices. The Calvary New Testament sacrifice of Golgotha, a dead place or place of the skull, was already set up from the Old Testament. So by the time Calvary comes in the New Testament, it's not going to be easily seen. But the Israelites, because they were now suffering from the captivity under the Romans, they're like, no, we need our God back. We need our Torah back. So they did not choose it. They instead said, no way. And when they said, no, we don't believe in this Calvary Messiah, that's when they were slaughtered and they had to flee from the slaughter of the Romans and run into other parts of Africa. From that part of Africa that they were in, which is Israel. Sacrifices are out of line. I'm out.